Today, the topic for discussion is jaundice in newborn. The definition of jaundice is the total serum bilirubin more than 2 milligram per deciliter, and that is biochemical definition. Why are we so worried about jaundice in newborn? Because majority of them are not harmful. 60% of full term, 80% of preterm develop neonatal jaundice, whereas jaundice in adult has got very different connotation. Jaundice in newborn is very not harmful. Why is it so? So now, because of intrauterine hypoxia, there is polycythemia in the newborn. This results in large production of bilirubin. And the bilirubin, to understand jaundice in newborn, we have to know something about bilirubin metabolism. The RBCs which are destroyed in the spleen result in heme and globin. The globin is circulated in the blood. Heme is converted into biliverdin and thereafter into bilirubin. This is unconjugated bilirubin. It is taken to liver for conjugation. After conjugation, the conjugated bilirubin is secreted into the bile ducts. From bile duct it goes into the intestine, where it is converted into stercobilinogen and urobilinogen. The urobilinogen is absorbed and it is excreted in the urine, whereas stercobilinogen is passed in the stools. Now, in the newborn, what is happening is there is a relatively more input of bilirubin because of destruction of large number of RBCs because of polycythemia. Secondly, the half-life of RBCs in newborn, in the newborn is 90 days compared to 120 days in adults. So a large amount of bilirubin is produced because of polycythemia. It comes to liver, and the liver is also immature. It takes about 1 week's time for the liver to fully mature. So it cannot handle the bilirubin which is produced in large quantities, and so the built-up of unconjugated bilirubin in the blood results in jaundice in the newborn. In addition to this, once whatever bilirubin comes to the liver, it is conjugated and it is put into the intestine. Here, because in intrauterine period, there is no provision for passing meconium. This bilirubin which has come and formed meconium is again deconjugated by beta-glucuronidase enzyme, which goes back to liver for conjugation. So this is called as enterohepatic circulation. So there are 4 factors which result in. So having learnt the various factors which result in jaundice in newborn, we can proceed to identify to what extent the baby is affected because of jaundice. How do we do that? Either you can do biochemical estimation, or by clinical examination you can make out how severe is the jaundice. If the jaundice is elicited in the head, it is supposed to be 6 milligram per deciliter. If the chest and upper abdomen is involved, then the jaundice is 8 milligram per deciliter. Lower abdomen and thigh involvement indicates a jaundice of 10 milligram per deciliter. If the legs and arms are involved, then the jaundice is 12 milligram per deciliter. If there is distinct discoloration of palm and soles, that means the jaundice is more than 15 milligram per deciliter. So this is rough estimation of jaundice in the newborn. having detected jaundice and thereafter estimated the severity of the jaundice, we also must take a detailed history, the antenatal history, the the natal history, postnatal history, perinatal history, to assess what are the factors other than the four factors which I mentioned may be contributing to the jaundice. Like there may be RH incompatibility, ABO incompatibility, infection, and various other things are there. So there are two types of jaundice in the newborn. One is a physiological jaundice. It may look very paradoxical that one time you are saying jaundice, at the same minute you are saying it is physiological. How physiological jaundice can be there? Like I already told you, there are four factors which result in increased production of bilirubin. These, if they appear in a given protocol of time, then we can say it is physiological jaundice. But if it does not stick to these factors, time propositions, then it is pathological jaundice. So, what is physiological jaundice? Physiological jaundice is jaundice in the newborn, which usually occurs between 24 to 72 hours. It does not go beyond 15 milligram per deciliter, and it does not last longer than 2 weeks. Anything which does not fit into this protocol or the time schedule is called as pathological jaundice. So the main purpose of investigating a child with jaundice or a newborn with a jaundice is to differentiate between physiological jaundice and pathological jaundice. Any jaundice which occurs before 24 hours is pathological jaundice. Any bilirubin more than 15 milligram per deciliter is pathological jaundice. And if jaundice persists for more than 2 weeks, it is pathological jaundice. So one has to be very careful to rule out the newborn is not suffering from pathological jaundice. So you take a detailed history, you examine the newborn and see everything is fitting into physiological, then you can rest assured and counsel the mother. There's nothing is wrong, it is a normal phenomena. Whereas if anything is missing, it is out of the physiological jaundice, you have to investigate in detail. What all you investigate to rule out pathological jaundice? Firstly, history taking, secondly, clinical examination, and thirdly, you have to do certain tests. What are the tests? First is CBC, that is complete blood count. It will give hemoglobin levels, it will tell hemoglobin, how much hemoglobin is there, and you do blood grouping, ABO and RH. Thirdly, you do a liver function test. It will tell serum, total bilirubin, direct bilirubin, indirect bilirubin, and this will tell whether it is pathological or physiological. Now, these two things are there. Then what we have to do is we have to also elicit other causes of pathological jaundice. Like child may be having sepsis, baby may be having torch infection, malaria, hepatitis B. Various other factors can result in pathological jaundice. So after investigating, then you decide the rule of action. Most of the jaundice is of two types. It is normal if it is less than 2 milligram per deciliter. If it is more than 2 milligram per deciliter, it can be one of the two types. It can be unconjugated or it can be conjugated. The unconjugated bilirubin is because of excessive destruction of RBCs, which has come to the liver, and there is some problem with the liver, it is immature, it is binding up. This is physiological, but in various other conditions like ABO incompatibility, RH incompatibility, G6PD deficiency, pyruvate kinase deficiency, and various other hemolytic processes which result in excess production of unconjugated bilirubin, which gets pent up in the blood, and it may result in serious consequences by affecting the brain. So it can result in coronary arrest. Why does coronary arrest takes place? because the blood-brain barrier is immature in the newborn, and excess unconjugated bilirubin has got affinity to the brain. It may affect some important parts of the brain. This will result in kernicterus. So now there are additional factors will be there. Even though the bilirubin level is less, it may still affect the brain. What are these factors? If the child has a hypoxia, if the baby has got acidosis, if the baby has got hypothermia and sepsis, these are all the factors. Even at lower levels, the brain will be affected. So now, after going through the various causes which may result in increased susceptibility of brain to kernicterus, we have to see in which way we can prevent development of kernicterus and other side effects of increased bilirubin. For that, there are two modalities of treatment. One is first to determine whether this jaundice is physiological or pathological. If it is physiological, nothing is required to be done. You just reassure the mother and the parents that it will subside by 1 or 2 weeks. But on the other hand, you think it is pathological jaundice, then you have to intervene. So what are the interventions? What are the interventions you can do? One is either you can do phototherapy, or if it is very severe, then you can go for exchange transfusion. What is phototherapy? Phototherapy is nothing but a blue light at certain frequency. When the surface is exposed, the baby's body surface is exposed, it converts the unconjugated bilirubin into conjugated bilirubin, which is again further excreted in the bile. So how do you go about it? First you have to determine there are certain normograms are there, wherein depending on the postnatal age, weight and the level of bilirubin, which can determine at what level of total serum bilirubin the child should be given phototherapy. Okay. So looking at those charts, you can come to conclusion whether phototherapy should be given or not. So having determined to give phototherapy, you have to take certain precautions. What are the precautions? The baby should be not going to hyperthermia because of the heat coming from the light. The baby may go into hyperthermia. So you have to prevent hyperthermia. Then you have to cover the eyes of the baby, and you also should cover external genitalia. Having done that, so then how much, what all you can, so that is so there are certain charts are there which is goes by the name of Mazel's chart. So on the left hand side you can see it is serum total bilirubin in milligram per deciliter. Next column is birth weight. Then this one is when did it appear? Less than 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, 49 to 72 hours, or more than 72 hours. So this is the onset of jaundice. So these are all various columns are there. You come to the next serial number 2. It shows the bilirubin, total serum bilirubin. If it is less than 5, at all birth weights, what is it? Okay. So only at all birth weights, nothing is to be done. If the bilirubin is 5 to 9 milligram per deciliter, for all birth weights, if it occurs less than 24 hours, you have to give phototherapy if hemolysis is suspected, as it occurs in RH incompatibility and ABO incompatibility, G6PD deficiency, pyruvate kinase deficiency. Now, if the serum bilirubin is between 10 and 14 milligram per deciliter, and if the weight is less than 2,500 grams, you have to do exchange transfusion if hemolysis is the cause of jaundice. If the weight is more than 2,500 grams, you have to do phototherapy and investigate. Then, if the serum bilirubin is 15 to 19 milligram per deciliter, if the weight is less than 2,500, or if the weight is more than 2,500, for all weights, exchange transfusion is done if it occurs before 24 hours or 24 to 48 hours. Thereafter, if it occurs after 49 to 72 hours, then you consider exchange transfusion and phototherapy. 20 milligram per deciliter and above, at all ages, exchange transfusion is the only modality of treatment. Now, how do you do exchange transfusion? The volume of blood to be transfused in exchange transfusion is calculated double the blood volume of the baby's blood volume. That is, normally a baby has got 85 ml per kg of blood volume. So you have to give double volume. So double volume will be around 270, let us say 300 ml of blood. Okay. So how do you do that? First you have to see that the baby is fixed and does not move. Umbilical catheter is put and you push in 10 ml of blood, then take out 10 ml of blood. Like that, you keep on push and pull. You keep on doing exchange transfusion. What exchange transfusion does? So ultimately what it is doing is trying to take out the unconjugated bilirubin. Secondly, it is also providing albumin sites for binding of the unconjugated bilirubin. So this way, if you do exchange transfusion over 2 to 3 hours, the whole blood will be removed, and along with that, the blood which has been transfused is free from bilirubin. Now, what are the complications of exchange transfusion? It can result in sepsis. We may introduce sepsis. Secondly, we may introduce blood-borne diseases like malaria and other hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and HIV. So these precautions should be done before doing exchange transfusion. Now, this is for unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. But there are certain pathological conditions where there is conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. What are these conditions? These conditions are neonatal hepatitis 1. Second is Alagille syndrome. Third is total biliary atresia. Then choledochal cyst. These are all obstruct the flow of the bile which has been conjugated in the liver and excreted. So now most of the conditions except neonatal hepatitis, biliary atresia, ultimately it requires liver transplantation. Nothing can be done. So awaiting liver transplantation, you have to keep searching for the donor. Okay. Then for choledochal, all other conditions, if there is biliary atresia, you have to do liver transplantation. And if there is total bile duct obstruction, stenosis, you can remove by surgical methods. And if there is choledochal cyst, that also can be taken out by surgery. So, to sum up, here you have got a high prevalence of jaundice in the newborn. Thank you.